This is World News coming to you live from Algiers. I'm Mariam Zian, and these are the top stories. On the sixth day of the escalation of the conflict in the Middle East, Tehran announced that the death toll from the US-Israeli attacks had risen to 1,230 and confirmed carrying out extensive strikes on vital targets deep inside the Zionist entity. The Iranian armed forces confirmed targeting the headquarters of Kurdish opposition groups in Iraqi Kurdistan. The Iranian army stated that it had launched an attack on the US forces headquarters in Erbil, and 2 injured after 2 Iranian drones fall in the Azerbaijani exclave. International reactions: Italy described the attacks on Iran as a violation of international law. Russia accused the US and Israel of attempting to drag Arab states into a wider conflict, and a joint European Gulf statement emphasized the importance of Gulf security for the stability of global economy. In Lebanon, the Ministry of Health reveals that 102 Lebanese have been killed in Zionist attacks since Monday. And Hezbollah says it targeted several military sites of the occupation in the occupied Palestinian territories. Welcome to the details. And first, Iran's Tasnim news agency reported that the death toll from the US-Israeli attacks on Iran had risen to 1,230 people. Iranian media reported on Wednesday that 3 sports facilities in different parts of the capital, Tehran, were targeted in attacks early Thursday morning. And as the conflict between the United States, Zionist entity, and Iran intensifies, the Middle East is entering a dangerous new phase of escalation. Military strikes and missile exchanges are raising fears of a wider regional war, with growing humanitarian and economic consequences. Marwa Belhawar tells us more.
The Middle East is sliding deeper into open war, with no clear end in sight. Hostilities have now entered their 6th day, as the United States and Zionist entity confront Iran in what has become a direct and escalating military conflict. Massive strikes by American and Zionist forces have targeted several strategic urban centers across Iran. In the province of Hamidan, local authorities report an initial civilian toll of 3 people killed and 5 others wounded following Zionist air raids. Officials say multiple locations across the province were struck Thursday by a series of air and drone attacks. At the same time, media reports indicate that additional US and Zionist strikes hit residential neighborhoods in Khurramabad in western Iran. Tehran's response came quickly. In successive waves, Iranian ballistic missiles were launched toward targets inside the Zionist entity, marking a dangerous new phase in the confrontation. The impact of the conflict is now spreading far beyond the battlefield. Fears over the security of the Strait of Hormuz and key energy infrastructure have already triggered a surge in global oil prices, sending the price of Brent crude sharply higher and rattling international financial markets. The crisis is now reverberating across Asia and the global economy. On the ground, the situation is also turning into a humanitarian emergency, with thousands of civilians attempting to flee areas caught in the fighting.
The Iranian army announced that it carried out drone attacks or strikes on Thursday against targets deep inside the Zionist entity, including a radar base. Iranian state television, quoting the army, said the strikes hit in what it called Tel Aviv and at the Meron radar base in northern occupied Palestinian territories. The spokesman for Iran's foreign ministry, Ismail Baghai, stressed that the United States and Israel attack on Iran aims to create an everlasting division in the region. Speaking to the press on Thursday, Baghai said the current developments represent a war of the future on the future of the entire region, adding that Iran is determined to defend itself no matter how long it'll take.
We didn't start this war. This was not our war of choice. We were attacked. The aggressors are responsible for the consequences. They initiated this war. The same they did in June. So Iranians have no other choice other than continuing to resist, to defend their territory, their sovereignty, their security as long as it takes. This is not the war against Iran only. This is a war against the future of the whole region. They just want to create division among the neighbors. They have launched this attack on 10th day of the holy month of Ramadan. Ramadan is a month of peace for Muslims. And they are trying to push the countries of the region against another Muslim country in order to create everlasting division.
And Iran announced on Thursday that it targeted the headquarters of Kurdish groups in Iraqi Kurdistan, according to Iranian state media, following airstrikes that hit Kurdish areas in both Iran and Iraq. The Islamic Republic news agency reported in a post on Telegram, quoting a military statement, that Iran launched 3 missiles at the headquarters of Kurdish groups opposed to the revolution in Iraqi Kurdistan. Iran's intelligence ministry said its forces alongside the Islamic Revolutionary Guard struck targets belonging to armed separatist groups attempting to infiltrate Iran through its western borders. The ministry said the operation followed monitoring of separatist terrorist groups trying to exploit the wartime situation. Iranian forces reportedly destroyed their positions and stopped the infiltration before any activity occurred inside the country, adding that security agencies remain vigilant against cross-border threats. The Iranian army said its ground forces launched an attack using combat drones on a U.S. military base in the Iraqi city of Erbil. Iranian state television citing the army said the strike inflicted significant losses on U.S. forces and caused heavy damage to the base. Azerbaijan's foreign ministry lodged a protest with the Iranian embassy after 2 Iranian drones crossed into Nakhchivan, injuring 2 people. It called the incident a violation of international law and warned it could escalate regional tensions while demanding clarification and measures to prevent a repeat. It's worth noting that 1 drone hit the passenger terminal at Nakhchivan International Airport, while another fell near a village school at about 10 kilometers from the Iranian border. Iranian media reported that Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told his Azerbaijani counterpart that Tehran was not responsible for launching projectiles into Azerbaijani territory. Araghchi added that Iranian armed forces are investigating the incident while also accusing the Zionist entity of attempting to damage relations between Tehran and Baku. Iran's armed forces said in a statement carried by state media on Thursday that they respect Turkey's sovereignty and denied launching any missiles toward Turkish territory. Earlier on Wednesday, Turkish Ministry of National Defense said NATO air and missile defense systems destroyed a ballistic missile over the eastern Mediterranean that had been launched from Iran toward Turkish airspace and passed over Syria and Iraq. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that activating Article 5 of the alliance's charter is not currently under discussion. In a media interview, Rutte said the alliance is closely monitoring developments in the Middle East and the interception of a missile headed toward Turkish airspace on Wednesday. stressing that no one is talking about activating Article 5.
Article 5, I think, is not in order here. Nobody's talking about Article 5. And the most important thing is that our adversaries have seen yesterday that NATO is so strong and so vigilant, and even more vigilant, if possible, since Saturday because of the situation, of course, in the Middle East. So they see and know and sense that our military are on this.
Rutte also denied NATO's involvement in the ongoing war in the Middle East, adding that the United States knows what it is doing, as he put it.
Clearly, NATO is not itself involved here. NATO allies are providing key enabling support. What we see here is that NATO, in that sense, is also this power projection platform for the United States. Because without European allies, the US would have found it very difficult to launch this campaign against Iran.
And the government of Italy announced plans to deploy air defense systems to Gulf countries and naval forces to the island of Cyprus in the eastern Mediterranean, amid the escalation in the Middle East. Italian Defense Minister Guido Crosetto said Thursday that Italy intends to upgrade its current defensive deployments with air defense assets, counter-drone systems and missile defense capabilities within the limits previously agreed with partner countries and within the mission's geographic and operational framework.
Today, in light of recent events, we intend to adapt the existing system with defensive assets, air defense systems, anti-drone and anti-missile systems within the scope of what has already been authorized and within the geographical and functional limits of the mission. In fact, it is necessary to deploy additional forces in the area of our contingents for our compatriots and to help counter an incipient financial and energy crisis.
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres urged the global community to invest in peace while observing the International Day for Disarmament and Non-Proliferation Awareness. He warned that the current international climate is marked by the highest threat of nuclear weapons use in decades. The statement was delivered to reporters in New York by Stéphane Dujarric, the UN spokesperson.
Today is the International Day for Disarmament and Non-Proliferation Awareness. In his message for the day, the Secretary General said the threats of nuclear weapon is the highest in decades. Global tensions are pushing military spending to stratospheric levels. Small arms and light weapons are proliferating, and emerging technologies are making conflicts even deadlier. The Secretary General said it is time to invest in the architecture of peace and not the tools of war. That means living up to disarmament obligations, rebuilding trust, and strengthening the systems and tools that prevent proliferation, testing, and the use of deadly weapons.
The Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said the United States will regret sinking the Iranian vessel Dina in international waters. Araghchi wrote in a post on his official page on the platform X that the Iranian ship, which was on a diplomatic mission as a guest of the Indian Navy in international waters, came under a U.S. attack, adding that around 130 sailors were on board at the time of the incident.
The United States has committed atrocities at sea, 2,000 miles from the shores of Iran. The frigate Dina, a guest of the Indian Navy with approximately 130 sailors on board, was attacked in international waters without warning. Remember my words, the United States will deeply regret the precedent it has set.
Italian Defense Minister Guido Crosetto said U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran clearly violated international law. Speaking before the Italian Chamber of Deputies, Crosetto said the attacks were launched without informing allies, leaving the world in the face of the consequences of a sudden war. Russia on Thursday accused the United States and Israel of trying to drag Arab countries into a broader conflict in the Middle East by provoking Iran and pushing it to strike targets across the region. In a statement, the Russian Ministry A foreign affairs at Washington and Israel deliberately provoked Iran into carrying out retaliatory strikes against targets in several Arab states. It added that the only way to prevent further destabilization in the Middle East is to halt what it described as the US and Israeli aggression.
The United States and Israel deliberately provoked Iran into carrying out retaliatory strikes against targets in some Arab countries, resulting in human and material losses, which Russia deeply regrets. In doing so, they're trying to drag the Arabs into a war that serves the interests of others.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned that the current crisis surrounding Iran could have serious and far-reaching consequences for global stability. During a roundtable meeting at the Diplomatic Academy in Moscow, Lavrov said one of the objectives of the war waged by the United States and Israel against Iran is to sow division among Middle Eastern countries.
I have no doubt that one of the objectives was to sow discord among the countries of the region between Iran and its Arab neighbors, after relations between the two sides had witnessed a positive normalization process in recent years, and even until recently.
Also, Sergei Lavrov pointed to internal disagreements within the United States over the true objectives of the war against Iran. Let's have a listen.
A broad debate is currently underway regarding the objectives of the military operation against Iran, including in the United States, where many politicians are unable to understand the true goals of this operation.
The Kremlin said on Thursday that Iran has not reached out to Moscow to request weapons supplies. Responding to a journalist's question about whether Russia plans to provide material assistance to Iran, including arms supplies, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said there has been no such request from the Iranian side, stressing that Russia's position regarding the situation around Iran remains unchanged.
Thank you.
In this case, there were no requests from the Iranian side. Our firm position is known to everyone, and there have been no changes in this regard.
China's foreign ministry confirmed that Beijing will soon send its special envoy for the Middle East, Chai Chun, to the region to help de-escalate tensions. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said China believes that dialogue and negotiation are the only way to resolve disputes.
China believes that war and force cannot solve issues once and for all. Dialogue and negotiation are the right solutions, and political and diplomatic settlement of disputes and differences should be upheld. China will continue to work with all parties, including parties to the conflict, to maintain communication, further engage with other parties, and build consensus.
Foreign ministers of the European Union and the Gulf Cooperation Council stressed that the security and stability of the Gulf region are essential pillars for global economic stability. In a joint statement issued after an emergency meeting on Thursday, the ministers highlighted the close link between Gulf security and global security, calling for an immediate and unconditional halt to Iranian attacks. And dozens of Lebanese have been killed and hundreds wounded in Zionist attacks on Lebanon since dawn on Monday. In a statement issued on Thursday, the Lebanese Ministry of Health said the death toll has risen to 102 people, including women and children, with 638 others injured with varying degrees of severity. The ministry added that the wounded were transferred to hospitals to receive treatment. Lebanon's Hezbollah announced it had targeted Zionist positions in several military areas in the occupied Palestinian territories in response to the attack on Lebanon. In statements on Thursday, the group said it launched a salvo of rockets toward Israeli positions in the Galilee Panhandle, adding that it had struck the military industries complex of Rafah south of the city of Acre. Hezbollah Secretary General Naim Qassem said his group is engaged in an open confrontation with the Zionist entity, accusing it of continuing attacks against the Lebanese people and the country's sovereignty. In press remarks, Qassem said Israel's actions against Lebanon are a deliberate and pre-planned aggression, not merely reactions. He added that Hebrew media itself confirms this narrative, stressing that the fight against Israel is for Lebanon and not linked to any other battle. And more than 500,000 people in Beirut's Taaliyah district were ordered to evacuate, triggering a massive movement across the city. Many had already left in the days before after airstrikes hit southern Beirut. Nabil Khazini has more details.
Fear, chaos and the rush to survive, that was Beirut on Thursday. Our southern neighborhoods emptied under an unprecedented evacuation order. Roads in the city's Taaliyah district became rivers of honking cars, motorcycles and trucks. More than 500,000 residents tried to escape the looming threat. 66-year-old Aliya Hijazi from southern Lebanon has known wars ever since she was a child. She is among the crowd that was transformed into a moving maze of urgency and fear, where some abandoned vehicles on the roadside, ready to flee on foot if danger drew closer. The mother of 10 injured a 70-hour road escape to Sidon, then a night in Saadiyat before finding brief refuge in Beirut's southern suburbs, only to be displaced again.
We woke up and we wanted to have sahur. They said, come on, they will start hitting, so we picked ourselves up and came. We came to Sidon. We stayed 17 hours on the road. 17 hours in cars, and we had children with us crying because they wanted to eat. We fled, you know what I mean. We spent a day, stayed a night in Saadiyat, then we picked ourselves up and came to Beirut, here to Taaliyah, to my husband's cousin's place.
The humanitarian stakes are high. Lebanese authorities say at least 102 civilians have died in the strikes over the past 4 days. Human Rights Watch has warned that mass evacuation orders risk violating the laws of war, highlighting the tension between military operations and civilian safety.
The Israeli militaries call for the immediate evacuation of the entire population of Lebanon south of the Litani River, raises serious risks of violations of the laws of war.
Along the Lebanese border, the military presence is intensifying. Troop deployments, widespread evacuation warnings, and escaping airstrikes suggest the region is teetering on the edge of a dangerous turning point, a reality that residents live with as they flee their homes.
The end of our news bulletin. Thank you for watching.